They say money changes people, but that is a lie. Money just reveals who you really are. And apparently, I was a man who didn't care if the world burned, as long as the ashes didn't dirty my Italian shoes. My name is Jide Balogun. In Lagos, that name opens doors that don't even have handles. I deal in oil, real estate, and shipping. I have a mansion in Banana Island that echoes because it is too big for one man, a fleet of cars I rarely drive, and a heart that turned to ice the day I found out my son was a stranger. It had been 3 months since the DNA revelation. 3 months since I cut everyone off. I became the cold-hearted billionaire the tabloids love to hate. I fired staff for breathing too loudly. I evicted tenants from my buildings without blinking. I was angry at God, angry at women, and angry at life. It was a rainy Tuesday evening, the kind of Lagos rain that floods the streets and makes the traffic stand still. I had just finished a brutal meeting at the Civic Center. I had acquired a rival company and stripped it for parts, putting 300 people out of work. I didn't care. "Sir, the car is ready," my bodyguard, Tun, said, holding a large black umbrella over my head as I stepped out of the glass doors. I was distracted. I was on a call with my lawyer, screaming about liquidating a trust fund I had set up for Junior. "I don't care if he's homeless." I barked into the phone, clutching my leather briefcase in one hand and my phone in the other. "Cut him off." "Zero." "Nothing." In my rage, I fumbled. As I slid into the back seat of the limousine, my jacket caught on the door frame. I yanked it free, not realizing that my wallet, the thick alligator skin wallet containing my black cards, $5,000 in cash and something far more valuable, had slipped from my inner pocket and fallen into the murky puddle by the curb. The heavy door slammed shut. "Move," I ordered. The convoy sped off, splashing water onto the sidewalk where a figure was huddled under a torn plastic sheet. I didn't realize the wallet was gone until I arrived at my penthouse an hour later. I reached into my pocket to tip the driver, a habit I kept despite my anger, and felt nothing but the silk lining of my suit. My heart stopped. It wasn't the money. The money meant nothing to me. It wasn't the credit cards. I could cancel those with a single phone call. Inside that wallet, tucked behind the ID slot, was the only thing I had left of my mother. A small, faded locket she gave me on her deathbed. Inside the locket was a prayer written in her handwriting. It was my good luck charm. My anchor. Without it, I felt naked. I felt cursed. "Turn the car around," I roared at Tund. "We have to go back to the Civic Center." "Sir, the traffic." Tund started. I said, "Turn around." "I will by the traffic if I have to." We raced back, sirens blaring, cutting through the chaos of Victoria Island. But when we arrived, the curb was empty. The puddle was still there, swirling with oil and mud, but the wallet was gone. I stood in the rain, my expensive suit soaking through, screaming at my security team. "Find it. I will pay anyone ₦1,000,000 if they find it." But it was hopeless. In a city of 20 million people, a fat wallet on the street lasts less than a second. It was gone. Meanwhile, 3 streets away, huddled under the awning of a closed bakery, sat Amara. Amara was 22, but her eyes held the weariness of a woman of 60. She was shivering, her wet clothes clinging to her protruding belly. She was 7 months pregnant and entirely alone. She had been kicked out of her aunt's house when she refused to give up the baby. The father had run off to South Africa the moment the test showed 2 lines. For 2 weeks, she had been sleeping on cardboard, eating scraps, praying for a miracle. She held the alligator skin wallet in her trembling hands. She had seen it fall. She had seen the angry man in the big car. She had crawled through the mud to grab it before the street urchins saw it. She opened it. Her breath hitched. Thick bundles of crisp dollar bills. More money than she had ever seen in her life. Enough to rent a flat for 2 years. Enough to buy baby clothes, food, a hospital delivery. Enough to save her life. Her stomach rumbled, a painful reminder of the hunger gnawing at her and her unborn baby. "God," she whispered, looking up at the gray sky. "Is this you? Is this my miracle?" A voice in her head, the voice of survival, screamed at her to run. "Take the money and run, Amara. The rich man won't miss it. He won't even notice." She pulled out a bill. $100. It was so easy. Then her thumb brushed against the locket. She opened it. She saw the picture of the old woman and the tiny handwritten prayer. "My son, remember that integrity is the only currency that matters in heaven." Amara froze. Tears mixed with the rain on her face. She thought of her unborn child. What kind of mother would she be if her baby's life was built on theft? What kind of karma would she invite? She closed the wallet. She shoved it deep into her ragged dress. "No," she said, her voice shaking but firm. I am poor but I am not a thief. The next morning, the mood at Balogun headquarters was lethal. I was rampaging through the boardroom like a wounded lion. I had fired 2 secretaries before 9 a.m. because my coffee was lukewarm. Sir, the receptionist's voice crackled over the intercom, sounding terrified. There is a situation in the lobby. I don't have time for situations. I yelled. Call security. Security is here, sir. But, it's a girl. She refuses to leave. She says she has something of yours. She says she won't give it to anyone but Jide Balogun. I paused. A glimmer of hope, sharp and painful, pierced my chest. Send her up, I said. But if she is wasting my time, tell the police to wait at the elevators. 5 minutes later, the heavy mahogany doors creaked open. I expected a businessman looking for a reward. I expected a hustler. I did not expect her. She looked like a ghost. Her dress was faded and stained with mud. She was barefoot, her feet swollen and cracked. Her hair was wrapped in a cheap, wet scarf. But what struck me most was the belly. She was heavily pregnant, carrying a life in the middle of her poverty. She smelled of rain in the streets. My nose crinkled in disgust. You, I said, staying seated in my leather chair, spinning a gold pen between my fingers. You have something for me? She didn't speak immediately. She looked around the massive office, her eyes wide, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city she was sleeping beneath. She looked terrified. She reached into her dress and pulled out the wallet. It was dirty. Mud smeared the expensive leather. She stepped forward and placed it on my glass desk. I saw you drop it yesterday, sir, she said. Her voice was soft, melodic, but weak from hunger. I wanted to bring it sooner, but I had no money for transport. I walked here. I stared at the wallet. I snatched it up, my hands shaking. I ripped it open. The cash was there. The cards were there. And there, tucked in the back, was the locket. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The relief was so intense it made me dizzy. But then the darkness in me took over. The cynicism. The betrayal I had suffered from my wife and son came rushing back. Nobody is this good, a voice whispered. Nobody returns $5,000 unless they want something bigger. I looked at her. She was standing there, hands clasped over her belly, waiting for a thank you? A reward? I stood up, towering over her. I saw her flinch. You walked here? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Yes, sir. And you expect me to believe you didn't take anything? She looked hurt. I didn't touch a penny, sir. I promise. I opened the cash compartment and thumbed through the bills. I didn't actually count them, but I looked at her with a sneer. It looks light, I lied. There was $10,000 in here. There is only 5. Her jaw dropped. No, sir. I swear on my unborn baby I didn't. Stop lying. I slammed my hand on the desk, making her jump. You street rats are all the same. You steal half, bring back the rest, and expect a medal for being a hero. You think because you are pregnant I will be soft? You think I am a fool? Sir, please, she was crying now, backing away. I am honest. I'm just hungry. I just wanted to do the right thing. The right thing. I laughed, a cold, bitter sound. The right thing would be to not touch my property in the first place. I pressed the intercom button. Security. Come in here. Now. 2 massive guards burst into the room. Sir? I pointed a shaking finger at the pregnant girl. This woman is a thief. She stole from my wallet and tried to hustle me for a reward. Take her out. Sir, no. Amara screamed, falling to her knees. I saved it for you. I could have kept it all. Please, I haven't eaten in 2 days. And toss her to the police, I added, turning my back on her to look out the window. Press charges. Attempted extortion. The guards grabbed her by her thin arms. She wasn't fighting them physically, she was too weak, but she was wailing. You have a heart of stone, Jide Balogun, she screamed as they dragged her toward the door. God is watching you. You will remember this moment. I didn't turn around. I listened to her screams fade down the hallway. I felt powerful. I felt in control. I had punished a thief. I had protected my empire. I sat back down and opened the wallet again, rubbing my thumb over my mother's locket. Integrity is the only currency. I frowned. I pulled the locket out to look at the picture. My blood ran cold. Beneath the locket, folded into a tiny square, was a piece of paper that hadn't been there before. It was old, yellowed parchment. I unfolded it. It wasn't money. It wasn't a receipt. It was a birth certificate. Name of child, Amara. Father. I squinted at the faded ink in the father's column. The name was smudged, but the location of birth was a small village in the east. A village I hadn't visited in 25 years. A village where I had a secret life before I became a billionaire. Before the city hardened me. And clipped to the birth certificate was a small, Polaroid photo of a woman holding a baby. I gasped, dropping the photo on the desk. I knew that woman. She was the only woman I had ever truly loved before money ruined me. She was the woman I abandoned to come to Lagos to seek my fortune. If this homeless girl was her daughter, and she had just walked all the way here to return my wallet, and I had just thrown her to the police. Panic, cold and sharp, seized my throat. I scrambled for the intercom, knocking my expensive crystal water jug onto the floor. It shattered just like my composure. Security? Stop. I screamed into the mic, don't let her leave. Bring her back. But the line was dead. I ran. I didn't wait for the elevator. I sprinted down the fire stairs, my heart pounding against my ribs like a sledgehammer. Please don't be gone. Please don't be gone. I burst into the lobby, sweating, panting, looking wild. Where is she? I grabbed the receptionist. The pregnant girl. Where is she? The receptionist looked terrified. The police, they just put her in the van, sir. They drove off. Which station? Which station? Central Station, sir. But what? Sir, as they were dragging her into the van, she collapsed. There was blood. A lot of blood. Didn't care about the speed limits. I didn't care about the red lights. I was in the back of my Maybach, screaming at Ton to drive faster, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked down at the photo in my hand again. The woman in the picture wasn't Amara. It was Nneka. My Nneka. The woman I had loved 25 years ago in the village before I became Jide Balogun, the billionaire shark. Before I chose ambition over love. I looked at the birth certificate again. Date of birth, 2002. I did the math instantly. I left the village in 1998. Amara was born 4 years after I left. She wasn't my daughter. Biologically, she was a stranger. But the guilt that washed over me was even worse than if she had been my blood. I had left Nneka with promises to return. I never did. I heard rumors she had died in poverty, heartbroken. And now her daughter, a girl who had clearly inherited her mother's honest eyes and tragic luck, had walked into my office to save me, and I had thrown her to the wolves. Sir, we are arriving at the station, Tund announced, swerving around a Danfo bus. Don't stop at the front. I barked. Drive through the gate. We screeched to a halt in the police compound. I didn't wait for Tund to open the door. I burst out, my expensive Italian loafers splashing into the mud, the rain soaking my suit instantly. The scene was chaos. The police van was parked, back doors open. A crowd of officers was standing around, looking down at something on the ground. They looked bored. Indifferent. Get back. I roared, pushing a sergeant aside. Move. And then I saw her. Amara was lying on the wet asphalt, curled in a fetal position. Her face was ashen, her lips blue. The puddles around her were tinged with pink. She wasn't moving. Is she breathing? I screamed, falling to my knees beside her. I didn't care about the mud ruining my pants. Is she breathing? An officer shrugged, chewing on a toothpick. Oga, you said she's a thief. We were just processing her. She fainted when we tried to get her into the cell. Probably faking it. Faking it? I grabbed the officer by his collar, my eyes bulging. She is pregnant, you fool. Call an ambulance. We called, sir. But you know Lagos traffic. Put her in my car, I ordered, my voice trembling with a rage I had never felt before. Now. Tun scooped her up. She was so light. Too light for a pregnant woman. Her head lolled back limp. As we sped toward the private hospital, the one I owned, the one where senators and oil tycoons went, I sat in the back holding her cold hand. Please, I whispered, a word I hadn't used in prayer for decades. Please don't die. Don't make me a murderer. I looked at her face. She looked so much like Nneka. The same nose. The same high cheekbones. I grabbed the wallet, the cursed wallet, from the seat next to me. I needed to know. I needed to be sure. I pulled out the cash. The stack of $100 bills. I had accused her of stealing half. I counted them, my fingers shaking violently. 1, 2, 3, 48, 49, 50. $5,000. Exactly. Every single cent was there. The bills were just stuck together because of the rain and the age of the notes. She hadn't taken a penny. She hadn't even taken $1 for food. She had walked miles, pregnant and starving, carrying a fortune, and she had delivered it intact. And I had called her a rat. I let out a sound that was half sob, half growl. I punched the leather seat, tears streaming down my face. I was the rat. I was the monster. Sir, we are here. The emergency doors of St. Nicholas Hospital flew open. My team had called ahead. Doctors in white coats were waiting with a stretcher. Save her. I yelled as they loaded her onto the gurney. I don't care what it costs. Save the girl, save the baby. If she dies, everybody is fired. Everybody. I watched them wheel her behind the double doors. The red surgery light flickered on. I stood alone in the pristine white hallway. I was covered in mud. My hands were stained with the blood from her dress. I looked like a madman. My lawyer, Barrister Ade, came running down the hall looking frantic. Mr. Balogun. The press. Someone took a video of the arrest. It's trending. Billionaire Jide Balogun assaults pregnant homeless woman. The board is calling. The stock is dropping. I slowly turned to look at him. Get out, I said softly. Sir, we need a statement. We need to spin this. We can say she attacked you or... I said get out. I roared, my voice echoing off the sterile walls. I don't care about the stock. I don't care about the board. Tell them to go to hell. Ade froze, terrified. He had never seen me like this. He nodded and scurried away. I slumped into a plastic chair, putting my head in my hands. Hours passed. The silence of the hospital was deafening. Every time a nurse walked by, I jumped, but they wouldn't look at me. They knew who I was. They knew what I had done. Finally, the double doors opened. The chief surgeon, Dr. Okafor, stepped out. He looked exhausted. He pulled off his surgical cap and sighed. I stood up, my legs feeling weak. Doctor? Is she? Dr. Okafor looked at me with a mixture of professional respect and personal judgment. Mr. Balogun, he said sternly. The mother, Amara. She is stable. She is severely malnourished, dehydrated, and suffering from extreme stress, but she will live. I let out a breath, grabbing the wall for support. Thank God. Don't thank him yet, Dr. Okafor interrupted, his face grim. The trauma caused a placental abruption. We had to perform an emergency C-section. The baby? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It's a boy, the doctor said. But he was born premature. Very premature. His lungs are undeveloped. He is in the NICU, hooked up to a ventilator. He stepped closer to me. That girl fought on the table, Mr. Balogun. Even under anesthesia she was mumbling. Do you know what she was saying? I shook my head, unable to speak. She was begging us not to let the angry man hurt her baby. She was begging for mercy. The words hit me like a physical blow. I want to see her, I stammered. She is sedated, Dr. Okafor said. But you can see the child. If you have a conscience, you should see what your anger has done. He led me to the NICU. It was a room filled with beeping machines and soft blue lights. In the center, inside a glass incubator, lay a tiny, fragile human being. He was so small. His skin was translucent. Tubes were taped to his nose and chest. His tiny chest was heaving, fighting for every single breath. I placed my hand on the glass. My hand, which signed billion-dollar deals, which destroyed companies, which had ordered the arrest of his mother. I did this, I whispered. I looked at the baby, and for the first time in 30 years the ice around my heart didn't just crack, it shattered. I made a vow right there, staring at that tiny fighting spirit. I will fix this, I promised the sleeping baby. I'm not your father. I'm not your grandfather. But from this day on I am your protector. Anyone who wants to hurt you or your mother will have to go through Jide Balogun. Suddenly the monitors behind me started beeping rapidly. A high-pitched, continuous alarm. Beep. Nurses rushed past me, pushing me aside. Code blue. Incubator 4. He's crashing. Get the defibrillator. His heart rate is dropping. I stood frozen, watching through the glass as they swarmed the tiny body. Clear. Beep. 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 The sound was faint, weak, but it was there. I stood with my forehead pressed against the cold glass of the incubator, watching the green line on the monitor rise and fall. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. More beautiful than the stock market ticker hitting an all-time high. More beautiful than the sunrise over my vineyard in Cape Town. He is back with us, a nurse whispered, wiping sweat from her forehead. He is a fighter. I let out a shuddering breath, my knees finally giving way. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the sterile linoleum floor of the NICU. I, Jide Balogun, wearing a suit that cost more than this nurse's annual salary, sat in the dirt and grime of my own making, weeping silently. For 30 years, I believed power was the ability to control others. I thought power was making people fear you. But watching that baby boy, who weighed less than a bag of sugar, fight death and win? That was power. I was nothing. I was just a man with a checkbook and a hollow soul. Mr. Balogun? I looked up. It was Dr. Okafor. He didn't look at me with disgust anymore. He looked at me with pity. The mother is awake, he said softly. She is in the recovery ward. She is weak and she is confused. But she is asking for her baby. I nodded, using the wall to pull myself up. My legs felt heavy, like I was wading through the swamp of my past. I need to see her, I said. Sir, the doctor hesitated. She is terrified. The last time she saw you, you were ordering her arrest. If you go in there, you might cause her heart rate to spike. It could be dangerous. I won't hurt her, I said, my voice cracking. I need to ask her something. About the photo. I walked down the hallway. It was 3 a.m. now. The hospital was quiet, save for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant wail of a siren in the Lagos night. I stopped at the door to room 304. I took a deep breath, straightened my ruined jacket and pushed the door open. Amara looked small in the hospital bed. The white sheet swallowed her up. Her face was pale, her lips chapped. She had an IV drip in her arm. Her eyes were closed. I pulled a plastic chair close to the bed and sat down. I didn't speak. I just watched her breathe. I saw Neka in every feature. The curve of her jaw. The way her eyelashes rested against her cheeks. Neka. My first love. The woman who told me, go to Lagos, Jide. Chase your dreams. I will be here when you get back. I never went back. I chased the dreams, caught them, strangled them and turned them into gold. And I forgot the girl who waited by the river. Where is my baby? The voice was a whisper, dry and brittle. I jumped. Amara's eyes were open. She was looking at the ceiling, dazed. Then she turned her head and saw me. The reaction was instant. She gasped, her eyes widening in sheer terror. She tried to scramble backward, clawing at the sheets, ripping the line. The machine started beeping. No, she rasped, her voice thick with panic. Please, don't take him. I didn't steal it. I swear. Amara, stop. I stood up, raising my hands in surrender. Please calm down. Nobody is arresting you. You. She pointed a shaking finger at me. The devil. You are the devil. The words cut deeper than any knife. I am not going to hurt you, I said, my voice gentle, a tone I hadn't used in decades. You are safe. Your baby is safe. She froze, her chest heaving. My baby? Is he alive? He is fighting, I said. He is in the NICU. He is small but he is strong. Like his mother. She stared at me, searching for the lie. She expected the yelling man, the arrogant billionaire. Instead, she saw a man with red eyes and mud on his shoes. Why are you here? She whispered. Did you come to mock me? To tell me I deserve this? No, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the wallet. She flinched when she saw it. I counted the money, Amara, I said softly. It was all there. Every kobo. I was wrong. I accused you falsely. She didn't look relieved. She looked tired. Does it matter? You already destroyed me. You already showed me that a poor person has no voice. It matters to me, I said. I am sorry. She laughed, a weak, cynical sound. Sorry? A billionaire says sorry? What is that worth? Can sorry fix the shame? Can sorry heal my baby? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I deserved her anger. I deserved her hate. I slowly pulled the birth certificate and the photo from the wallet. I placed them gently on the bed covers near her hand. I found these, I said. Amara looked down. Her expression softened instantly as she touched the photo. That is my mother, she whispered. Tears pooled in her eyes. Neka, I said. Amara's head snapped up. Her eyes locked onto mine. The room went deadly silent. How do you know her name? She asked, her voice trembling. It is not on the certificate. I looked down at my hands. I knew her. A long time ago. Before I was Jide Balogun the tycoon. I was just Jide. Amara studied my face. She squinted as if trying to fit a puzzle piece together. You. She breathed. You are from the village? Yes. You are the Jide? What? I looked up. My mother. Amara's voice broke. She talked about a Jide. Even when she was sick. Even when she was dying. I felt a cold hand squeeze my heart. She is dead. I knew it deep down. But hearing it was final. She died 3 years ago, Amara said, tears streaming down her cheeks. Kidney failure. It was treatable. The doctor said if we had 500,000 naira for dialysis she would live. But we didn't have it. We sold everything. The land, the goats. It wasn't enough. I closed my eyes. 500,000 naira. That was what I spent on a bottle of champagne at dinner. That was what I spent on dry cleaning in a month. Nneka had died for the price of my shoes. She waited for you, Amara continued, her voice gaining a strange strength. She told me, Jide will come back. He is a good man. He just got lost. She defended you to the village elders when they called you a traitor. I couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt heavy, suffocating. She gave me that locket. Amara pointed to the wallet. She said you gave it to her. She said it was your mother's prayer. She told me to keep it safe. She said, if you are ever in trouble, pray. And if you ever meet Jide, tell him I never stopped loving him. I broke. I put my head on the edge of her bed and sobbed. Great, heaving sobs that shook my entire body. I hadn't cried like this since I was a child. The armor of wealth, the ego, the pride, it all dissolved in the face of a love I had betrayed. She died believing I was a good man. And I had proven her wrong by arresting her daughter. I killed her, I choked out. I killed her with my greed. Amara didn't comfort me. She didn't touch me. She just watched me with sad, ancient eyes. Why are you homeless, Amara? I asked after a long time, wiping my face with a handkerchief that felt too expensive for my skin. Who is the father of the child? Amara's face hardened. The sadness was replaced by fear. He is a bad man, she whispered. A powerful man in the village. He forced himself on me after my mother died. When I got pregnant, he said he would kill me if I told his wife. He burned down our hut. I ran. I ran all the way to Lagos. Who? I demanded, the old rage flaring up, but this time, it was a righteous fire. Give me a name. I will destroy him. It doesn't matter, she shook her head. You cannot fight him. He has connections. He is a local politician. I am Jide Balogun. I stood up, my voice rising. I own the politicians. I will bury him. No. Amara reached out and grabbed my wrist. Her grip was weak but desperate. You don't understand. It's not just him. She looked at the door, making sure it was closed. When I was running, when I was on the bus to Lagos, I saw the news. I saw your face on a billboard. I knew you were the man my mother loved. I came to your office yesterday not just to return the wallet. I stared at her. Why did you come? I came to warn you, she whispered. Warn me? About what? The man who chased me, the man who fathered this child, he was on the phone one night. He didn't know I was listening. He was talking to someone in Lagos. Someone named Junior. My blood turned to ice. Junior? I repeated. My stepson? He was telling Junior that the old man, that's you, was getting suspicious. He said they needed to accelerate the plan. He said you wouldn't live to see the end of the year. I stood frozen in the center of the hospital room. The betrayal wasn't just about paternity. It wasn't just about money. It was a hit. Junior wasn't just a leech. He was conspiring with a thug from my village, the man who abused Nneka's daughter, to kill me. And Amara, the girl I had thrown in jail, was the only person in the world who knew the truth. Suddenly, the door to the room burst open. I spun around. It wasn't a doctor. Standing in the doorway, wearing a sharp suit and a smile that didn't reach his dead eyes, was Junior. Dad, he exclaimed, stepping into the room. I saw the news. I was so worried about you. And he looked past me, his eyes locking onto Amara. His smile vanished. And I see you found a new friend. The air in the hospital room turned toxic the moment Junior stepped in. He smelled of expensive oud, wood, cologne, and hypocrisy. My first instinct was to strangle him. My hands twitched at my sides. I wanted to smash his smiling face into the tiled floor. He was plotting my death. He was working with the animal who abused Amara. But I looked at Amara. She was trembling so hard the bed frame rattled. Her eyes were wide with terror. If I reacted now, if I exposed what I knew, Junior would know the game was up. And a desperate man is a dangerous man. Amara and the baby would be collateral damage. I had to be Jide Balogun, the heartless tycoon. I had to become the monster one more time to kill the monster. I slowly turned my back to Amara, blocking Junior's view of her. I forced my facial muscles to relax. I forced a look of annoyance, not rage, onto my face. Junior, I said, my voice dry and bored. I told security to bar you from the building. You are trespassing. Junior laughed, a smooth, practiced sound. He walked further into the room, his eyes trying to peer over my shoulder at Amara. Come on, Dad. I heard you were at the hospital. I was worried. You're not a young man anymore. The stress. He paused, his eyes narrowing. And then I see the news that you're playing hero to a street urchin? That's not like you. It's PR, I lied smoothly. My image is taking a beating. I need to look like a philanthropist. Fixing this girl is cheaper than a defamation lawsuit. I heard Amara gasp behind me. It hurt me to say those words. It felt like swallowing glass. Forgive me, Amara, I prayed silently. I have to play the part. Junior looked at me, studying my face. He was looking for cracks. Is that so? He took a step closer. So why are you in her room at 3 a.m.? Since when do you do bedside visits for charity cases? Since she has something of mine, I said, improvising rapidly. She claims she found more documents in the wallet. I am ensuring she doesn't try to blackmail me. Junior's eyes flickered. Interest, greed, fear, blackmail? He chuckled, but it was tight. What could a homeless girl possibly have on the great Jide Balogun? Unless she knows something about the family? He tried to step around me to look at her. I sidestepped, cutting him off. I stared him down. I was still the lion. He was just a hyena waiting for scraps. Get out, I said quietly. I will deal with this mess. Go to the office. Pack your things. My decision stands. Junior's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. Dead cold. Fine, he said, adjusting his cuffs. I'll go. But Dad, be careful. The streets are dangerous. You never know who you can trust. He looked at Amara one last time. Get well soon, darling. You have no idea how lucky you are to have my father's attention. He turned and walked out. I didn't move. I listened to his footsteps fade down the corridor. I listened for the elevator ding. Only then did I exhale. My knees almost buckled. I turned to Amara. She was crying silently, tears leaking into her ears. You called me a charity case, she whispered. You are just like them. No, I grabbed her hand, squeezing it tight. Amara, listen to me. That was a performance. That man, Junior, he is the one working with your abuser. If he knew who you were, if he knew you recognized his plan, you would be dead before sunrise. Amara's eyes widened. He is the one? Yes. We are in a trap, Amara. He knows I am here. He is suspicious. This hospital is not safe anymore. I pulled out my phone. I needed Tund. I needed my extraction team. But when I looked at the screen, my heart stopped. No service. I frowned. I was in the middle of Victoria Island. I always had service. I walked to the window. Still no bars. I checked the Wi-Fi. Down. A cold realization washed over me. Junior hadn't just left. He had jammed the signals. Or he had cut the lines. I opened the door to the hallway. It was too quiet. Where was the nurse? Where was the security guard I had posted at the door? The chair outside the room was empty. A half-drunk cup of coffee sat on the floor, spilled. Tund? I called out softly. No answer. I walked to the nurse's station at the end of the hall. Empty. The elevator display was dark. He had isolated the floor. I ran back into the room and locked the door. I shoved a heavy medical cabinet against it. What is happening? Amara asked, trying to sit up, wincing in pain. He didn't leave, I said, stripping off my suit jacket and rolling up my sleeves. He's clearing the floor. He's going to finish what he started. I looked around the room. I had a pen. I had a plastic chair. I had a recovering mother and a newborn baby in the NICU down the hall. And I was up against a man who wanted my billions and had zero morals. Amara, I said, my voice steady. Can you walk? It hurts, she cried. I know. But you have to. We have to get to the NICU. We have to get the baby and get out through the fire escape. My baby is on a machine, she panicked. We can't move him. If we stay here, we die, I said grimly. If we move him, he has a chance. I helped her up. She screamed in pain as her stitches pulled, but she bit her lip and leaned on me. She was so light, so fragile. We moved to the door. I listened. Heavy footsteps. Boots. Not hospital shoes. 2 men. Maybe 3. Check room 304, a voice whispered. It wasn't Junior. It was a rough voice. Hired muscle. Make it look like a complication. Embolism. My blood ran cold. They were going to kill her and blame the surgery. I looked at Amara. She heard it too. She was shaking violently. Trust me, I whispered to her. I looked at the ventilation vent above the bed. Too small. The window? We were on the 3rd floor. That I saw it. The fire sprinkler on the ceiling. I grabbed my lighter, a heavy gold Zippo I kept out of habit, and the can of aerosol disinfectant from the counter. Get in the bathroom, I ordered Amara. Cover your head with wet towels. Do not come out until I say so. What are you going to do? I'm going to create a distraction. She limped into the bathroom. I stood by the door. I waited. The handle turned. It was locked. Open up, the voice growled. A heavy thud against the wood. They were kicking it in. I climbed onto the bed, reaching for the sprinkler head. I lit the lighter, heating the sensor. Come on. Come on. Crack. The door frame splintered. The sprinkler exploded. Black, oily water shot out at high pressure. Instantly, the fire alarm began to wail. Oh, oh, oh. It was deafening. And it wasn't just this room. The whole system was linked. The alarms would be going off on every floor. The elevators would ground. The emergency doors would unlock automatically. The door to the room kicked open. 2 men in scrubs wearing surgical masks burst in. What the hell? One yelled, shielding his eyes from the deluge of water. I didn't hesitate. I am 55 years old, but I grew up in the streets of Lagos before I wore suits. I grabbed the heavy oxygen tank standing by the bed and swung it like a baseball bat. Clang. It connected with the first man's ribs. He went down with a grunt. The second man pulled a gun. A silenced pistol. I threw the fire extinguisher I had grabbed from the wall at him. He dodged, but it gave me a second. I tackled him. We hit the wet, slippery floor. He was younger, stronger. He punched me in the jaw. I tasted blood. He pinned me down, the gun barrel pressing into my forehead. Goodbye, billionaire, he sneered. Smash. The man collapsed on top of me. Behind him stood Amara, holding the heavy porcelain lid of the toilet tank. She was swaying, her hospital gown soaked in water and blood, her eyes wild. She had saved me. I pushed the unconscious man off me and scrambled up. We have to go. I grabbed Amara. The baby. We stumbled into the hallway. It was chaos. Emergency lights were flashing red. Nurses and patients were running from other rooms. This was our cover. We ran to the NICU. The power was out, but the backup generators were humming. My baby. Amara screamed. We reached the incubator. The nurse was there, frantically bagging the baby manually because the ventilator had reset. Give him to me. I yelled. Sir, you can't. The hospital is under attack. Give him to me. I grabbed a portable transport incubator, a small, battery-operated pod. I had donated 20 of them to this hospital last year. I never thought I would be stealing one. We loaded the tiny boy inside. He looked so fragile. Let's go, I said. We hit the stairwell. Down 3 flights of stairs. Amara was sobbing with every step, clutching my arm. I carried the incubator in one hand, supporting her with the other. We burst out into the back alley behind the hospital. It was pouring rain. The storm masked our escape. Where is your car? Amara asked, shivering. We can't use my car, I said. They will be tracking it. Tund is probably compromised or dead. We were on the street. A billionaire, a homeless girl, and a baby in a box. We walked fast, sticking to the shadows. I needed a phone. I needed a car that wasn't mine. Suddenly, a pair of headlights blinded us. A black SUV screeched to a halt, blocking the alley exit. I stepped in front of Amara and the baby. I looked around for a weapon. I had nothing. The window rolled down. It was Tund, my bodyguard. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Get in, sir, he yelled. They are right behind me. I didn't know if I could trust him. Was he part of it? Was this a trap? Sir, if I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have fought off 3 men in the lobby. Get in. I looked at Amara. We had no choice. I pulled the door open and shoved Amara and the baby inside. I jumped in. Drive. Tires smoked as we peeled out of the alley, just as Junior's men burst out the back door of the hospital, guns drawn. Where are we going, sir? Tund asked, checking the rearview mirror. Home is not safe. The office is not safe. I looked at Amara. She was huddled over the incubator, singing a soft lullaby to the baby. She looked at me, her eyes trusting me for the first time. I looked out at the city I owned, realizing I had nowhere to hide. Take us to the slums, I said. Take us to Makoko. Tund looked at me in the mirror, shocked. The floating slums, sir? You. Nobody looks for a billionaire in a shanty town, I said, wiping the blood from my mouth. And I have an old friend there who owes me a favor. A friend who knows how to deal with village warlords. The smell of Makoko hit me before we even saw the water. It was a thick, heavy scent of smoked fish, stagnant water, and wood smoke. To most of my business partners, it was a smell of poverty. To me tonight it smelled like survival. Tund parked the SUV under a broken bridge, covering it with old tarps. We moved on foot, or rather by canoe. An old man with skin like leather paddled us silently through the black, oily water of the lagoon. Around us, the city of stilts rose up like a wooden skeleton. Generators hummed. Children peeked out from behind curtains made of old rice sacks. Amara sat in the middle of the canoe, shielding the portable incubator with her body. The battery light on the machine was blinking red. Low battery. "We are almost there," I whispered, dipping my hand into the cold water. It felt real. The air-conditioned sterility of my office felt like a dream. This, the struggle to live, was reality. We pulled up to a large, wooden structure built on sturdy stilts deep in the labyrinth of the floating city. Standing on the deck was a woman. Massive, imposing, smoking a pipe. Makoko, the unspoken queen of Makoko. 30 years ago, when I was a hungry boy selling gala in traffic, she ran the street corner. I paid her tax then. I never forgot her. "Jide Balogun," she said, her voice like grinding gravel. She didn't bow. "You look like a wet rat in a $1,000 suit." "I need shelter, Mama," I said, climbing onto the deck and helping Amara up. "And I need power for this machine. A baby's life depends on it." She looked at Amara, then at the glowing box. She nodded. "Enter." Inside it was warm. She had a massive industrial generator. We plugged the incubator in. The green light stabilized. Amara collapsed onto a woven mat, sobbing with relief. "You are in trouble, Jide," Makoko said, handing me a cup of hot pepper soup. "The police scanner is buzzing. They are looking for a kidnapper. They say you stole a baby." "My stepson," I spat the word out. "He framed me. He wants to kill me and take the empire." "So, the cub wants to eat the lion," Makoko laughed. "What is the plan?" "We wait for morning," I said. "Then I call the commissioner of police. I have files on Junior." "I have." "Sir," Tund interrupted, standing by the window. His voice was tight. "We don't have until morning." I rushed to the window. In the distance, cutting through the dark lagoon, were 3 speedboats. Their searchlights were sweeping the shanties, blindingly bright. They weren't police boats. They were black, sleek, and silent. "He tracked us," Tund cursed. "The car. I thought I disabled the GPS, but there must have been a backup." Amara whimpered, pulling the incubator closer. "Makoko," I turned to her. "I brought war to your doorstep. I am sorry." The old woman stood up, cracking her knuckles. "This is Makoko, Jide. We don't run from war. We are the water. We swallow everything." She whistled. A sharp, piercing sound that cut through the night. "They are coming here," I told Tund. "Give me your gun." "Sir, you haven't shot a gun in 20 years. Give me the gun." He handed me his pistol. It felt heavy. Cold. "Tund, you stay with Amara. Guard that door. If they get past me, you shoot to kill. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." I stepped out onto the wooden walkway that connected the houses. The rain had stopped, but the mist was thick. The boats roared closer. They slowed down, surrounding Makoko's house. Junior stepped onto the deck of the lead boat. He was wearing a raincoat, looking like a villain from a bad movie. Beside him was a man I recognized from the files. Chief Okoro, the village politician. The man who hurt Amara. "Dad." Junior called out, his voice amplified by a megaphone. "Come out. Stop embarrassing yourself. Living in a swamp? Really?" I walked to the edge of the wooden platform, the gun hidden behind my back. "Go home, Junior," I shouted back. "It's over. It's over when I say it is." Junior laughed. "Give us the girl. Give us the documents she gave you. And maybe I let you retire to a nice nursing home in London." Chief Okoro stepped forward. "And the baby," he growled. "That abomination belongs to me." Inside the hut, I heard Amara scream, "Never." "You hear that?" I yelled. "She says go to hell." Junior sighed. "Okay. Burn it down." He signaled to his men. One of them lit a Molotov cocktail. "No." I raised the gun, aiming at Junior. Junior's men raised their assault rifles. Red laser dots danced on my chest. I was outgunned. I was dead. "Drop it, old man," Junior sneered. "You think you can beat me? I am the future. You are a dinosaur." I looked at the water. I looked at the lasers on my chest. I lowered the gun. "Smart choice," Junior smirked. "Now boys, light it up." "Wait." I screamed. Junior, look around you. Look at what? The garbage? The filth? Look at the shadows, I said softly. Junior frowned. He looked at the surrounding huts. From the darkness of the lagoon, hundreds of canoes silently drifted into the light. In every canoe stood a man or a woman. Fishermen. Area boys. Market women. They held machetes. Harpoons. Iron pipes. Mama Kay stepped out beside me, her pipe glowing red in the dark. You insult my guest, she shouted, her voice booming over the water. You insult my home. You call us filth? Junior looked around, panic flickering in his eyes. There were hundreds of them. His 3 boats were surrounded. Shoot them. Junior screamed at his men. Shoot the mob. If you fire 1 shot, I said calmly, my voice steady, they will capsize your boats. You will drown in this filth before you can reload. The mercenaries looked at the mob. They looked at the dark water. They lowered their rifles. They were hired killers, not suicidal maniacs. What are you doing? Junior screamed at them. I pay you. You don't pay enough to die for, Oga, one mercenary muttered. Junior, I said, stepping forward. You forgot the first rule of business. Know your territory. You think power is the boardroom? Power is people. I pulled out my phone. I had been recording the entire time. I have you on video ordering arson and murder. I have the chief here demanding an abomination he fathered through rape. Chief Okoro turned pale. Tund? I yelled. Now. From the shadows of the roof, Tund dropped down, landing on the boat deck behind Junior. Before Junior could react, Tund kicked his legs out from under him. Junior hit the deck hard. Tund had him in a chokehold within a second. Chief Okoro tried to run, but a harpoon from a nearby canoe slammed into the wood of the boat, inches from his face. He froze, putting his hands up. Sirens wailed in the distance. Real sirens this time. I called the commissioner 10 minutes ago, I told Junior, who was struggling against Tund's grip. I told him I was being held hostage. He is bringing the tactical squad. Junior looked up at me, his face twisted in hate. I hate you. You always loved your reputation more than me. I didn't love my reputation, I said, looking at him with pity. I just didn't love you enough to teach you how to be a man. I gave you money when I should have given you time. That is my sin. And this. I gestured to the police boats arriving, blue lights flashing against the shanties. This is your consequence. The police boarded the boats. Handcuffs clicked. As they dragged Junior away, he screamed and cursed. But I didn't watch him. I turned back to the hut. Amara was standing in the doorway holding the baby, who had been taken out of the incubator for just a moment. She was crying, but she was smiling. I walked over to her. I touched the baby's tiny hand. Is it over? She asked. The danger is over, I said. But the work is just beginning. I looked at Mama Kay. Thank you, I said. Name your price. Mama Kay puffed on her pipe. Build us a school, Jide. A real one. On solid ground. Done, I said. And a hospital. I looked at Amara. Let's go home, I said. Not to the mansion. That place is cold. We will find a home. A real home. Time is a funny thing. When I was building my empire, time was money. Every second was a tick on the stock market. Now, sitting on the grass in the garden of my new home in Acadia, watching a toddler chase a butterfly, time is simply peace. Pa Jide. Look. The little boy stumbled over his own feet, giggling as he fell onto the soft grass. He was 1 year old today. His name is Namdi. It means, my father is here. He wasn't my blood, but he was my heart. I see you, my boy, I laughed, picking him up and tossing him into the air. He shrieked with delight. His lungs, once so undeveloped that doctors thought he wouldn't survive the night, were now loud and strong. I looked at his face. He had Amara's eyes. And through her, he had Neka's smile. Sir, a voice called from the patio. The guests are arriving. It was Tund. He wasn't just a bodyguard anymore, he was my chief of security and my friend. He wasn't wearing a black suit and earpiece today. He was wearing a bright blue agbada, ready for the celebration. I am coming, I said, putting Namdi down. Today was a double celebration. It was Namdi's first birthday, and it was the official launch of the Jide Balogun Foundation. I walked toward the house. It wasn't the cold, echoing mansion on Banana Island. I had sold that place. It had too many ghosts. This house was smaller, warmer. It smelled of jollof rice and fried plantains. Amara came out to meet me. I stopped in my tracks. It still took my breath away to see her. 1 year ago, she was a skeleton in rags, huddled under a bakery awning. Today she was radiant. She wore a stunning lace dress in gold and white. Her skin glowed. She was a student now, studying business administration at the University of Lagos. "You look like a queen," I told her. She smiled, adjusting my cap. "And you look like a grandpa who has been rolling in the grass." She brushed a blade of grass off my shoulder. "Are you nervous about the speech?" "I have addressed the United Nations, Amara. I don't get nervous." "Liar," she teased. "I saw you practicing in the mirror." We walked into the main hall together. It was packed. But not with the fake friends and business sharks I used to know. Mama K was there, wearing a massive headgear, Gelly, that defied gravity, sitting front row. The doctors who saved Namdi were there. The receptionist I had yelled at a year ago was there. I had promoted her to manager. And of course the press was there. But this time the headlines were different. From Ruthless to Redeemed, Jide Balogun's second act. I walked to the podium. The room went silent. I cleared my throat. I reached into my pocket and pulled out an object. The alligator skin wallet. It was battered now, stained with mud and water. But I kept it. 1 year ago, I began, my voice steady, I lost this wallet. I thought it was the worst day of my life. I was angry. I was blind. I looked at the crowd. I had $5,000 inside. I thought that was a lot of money. But a young woman, homeless and starving, brought it back to me. She didn't take a dime. And how did I repay her? I arrested her. A murmur went through the crowd. I didn't hide from my shame. I owned it. I was a poor man then, I continued. I had billions in the bank, but I was spiritually bankrupt. I had a son, Junior, who I raised with money instead of love, and he grew up to hate me so much he wanted me dead. Briefly, my mind flashed to the trial 3 months ago. Junior standing in the dock, his arrogance gone, weeping as the judge sentenced him to 20 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Chief Okoro got life for his crimes against women. Justice was served, but it didn't bring me joy. It was just a tragedy that had to be closed. But I looked at Amara. God gave me a second chance. He sent me an angel in rags to teach me that integrity is the only currency that matters. Today we open the NECA Foundation. We have already built the school in Makoko. Next month we break ground on the hospital. The room erupted in applause. Mama K stood up and cheered, waving her fan. But I raised my hand. That is not the only announcement today. I waved Amara to the stage. She walked up, holding Namdi, looking confused. This wasn't in the script. "Amara," I said, turning to her. "You returned my wallet. You saved my life in that hospital room. You gave me a reason to wake up in the morning." I took an envelope from the podium. "I know I am not your father. I know I am the man who left your mother behind all those years ago. I can never fix that. But I can fix today." I handed her the envelope. She opened it. Her hand started to shake. She pulled out the legal documents. Adoption papers. "Amara," I said, my voice cracking with emotion. "I don't have a legacy anymore. The Balogun name ends with me, unless you take it. I want to adopt you as my daughter. I want Namdi to be my grandson legally. I want you to be my heir. Not for the money, but because you are the only family I have." Amara stared at the papers, then at me. Tears streamed down her face, ruining her makeup, but she didn't care. "You want me?" she whispered. "After everything?" "Because of everything," I said. She handed the baby to Tund and threw her arms around me. I held her tight. The camera flashes went off, but I didn't see them. I only felt the hug of a daughter I didn't deserve, but who loved me anyway. "Yes, Dad," she sobbed into my shoulder. "Yes." The crowd went wild. Handkerchiefs were out everywhere. Even Mama K was wiping her eyes. Later that evening, after the guests had left, we sat on the porch. The sun was setting, painting the Lagos sky in purple and orange. Namdi was asleep in Amara's arms. I looked at the wallet sitting on the table between us. "You know," I said softly, sipping my tea, "I never asked you. That day, when you were starving, when you had nothing, why didn't you take the money? Nobody would have known." Amara looked down at her sleeping son. She touched the locket around her neck, NECA's locket, which I had returned to her. "My mother taught me that poverty is a condition of the pocket, not the spirit," she said. "If I had taken that money, I would have fed my belly for a month, but I would have starved my soul forever. I wanted my son to be born into dignity, not theft." I nodded, looking at the city lights flickering in the distance. I used to think I owned this city. Now I knew I was just a guest in it. "You were right," I said. "You returned $5,000. But you gave me back my life." I leaned back in my chair, listening to the crickets, surrounded by my family. The wallet lay on the table, empty of cash but full of history. I didn't need it anymore. I was Jide Balogun. And for the first time in my life I was truly a billionaire.